Let's bring in Professor Konyinsola Ajayi, a senior advocate of Nigeria. Prof, it's good to have you on Newsnight tonight. Let's start from where we should start. A number of people have said that Nigeria's constitution is not fit for purpose, and others are saying that it does not represent we the people. We'd like to know what your thoughts are, especially on the background of people saying that we should go back to 1963 constitution. Let's start from there.
All right. I think the point to make is that clearly we cannot live in the past. We must be living in tomorrow, today. And I'm not sure that 1963 Constitution, as El Rufai says, will be a silver bullet to solve all our problems, just as silver bullet of restructuring will not solve all our problems. But the truth of the matter is that the 1999 Constitution says, in its preamble, that we, the people of Nigeria, have made this Constitution. I mean, clearly that is not true, because what is true is that our head of state at that time set up a committee of wise men, I think headed by the late Justice Nikki Toby, to draft a new constitution. And essentially what they did was take up the 1979 constitution, look at the way the military had bastardized that constitution since our current head of state came into government and then moved to Babangida and then Abacha and then Abdul Salam, and how they battered the constitution. And then, Justice Nick Toby also then, his committee then, stapled on a few things to that. And, we have this constitution. So, yes, it is true that it's not a constitution made by the people. And we actually need a constitution that is made by the people. Now, I don't think we should get lost in the debate as to appellations, as to whether we should amend the constitution or write a new constitution. I don't think that really matters. But what matters is that we need an organic document that comes from the people and that would define what we are as a society, what we are as a people. I think we need to address really, really fundamental questions that go to our survival. And our survival, because today we're in a triangle of problems. The problems that have been brought upon us by mediocrity and misgovernance, that we all mask as corruption. I know that that's the way it symbolizes itself. And then that was then made worse by COVID-19 and the pressures that has brought in exhibiting the problems that we have and magnifying them. And then is the fact that, we live in a new world that has moved far ahead. We live in a world where cars are all being electric and we're worrying about fossil fuels. So we have these triangular problems that we need to look at. We need to look at ourselves in the context of 70% of our people, who are the youth, and they are tomorrow. What is it that is their aspiration, and how would they like to be governed? How would they like to see their country? These are the fundamental questions that I think we need to answer.
It's there. And the fundamental question then would be exactly what will it take for Nigeria to have that people's, constitution that everybody can actually agree to? And what are your thoughts about the, constitution review that's going on right now in the different zones? Do you think it's a waste of time? Is it just, or do you think it will actually, bring about that organic constitution that you talk about?
I don't think the exercise we're undertaking, personally, I don't think is sincere, and I don't think it is the answer to our problems. First of all, not all of us believe in the elections that brought all these people to power or into office. So that's the fundamental question, is that are they truly representatives of the people? The second fundamental question is, even if the elections were properly held, have these people been representing us? Have they been doing the right things? how have they held government accountable for misgovernance? And how come so few people, maybe 1,000, maybe 2,000 people as a whole in the National Assembly, gulping so much of our revenue and our income? And so these are fundamental questions as to whether these set of people are the people that would genuinely bring about a result that we desire. So that's the first fundamental question that I have, that I think we have the wrong people going about this. The second thing is that it is clear that most people in government, in power, in office today just want some kind of panel beating. And the reason why is that most of them are afraid as to what will happen to them. Most of them are afraid that the status quo would change. Their access to the spoils of office, their access to power will be lost. But I think they should look at Kirikou of Benin Republic. For those who remember, Kirikou was a military dictator, was head of state, and there was crisis in the country, there was problem, and there was a ground rise for changing society. And so the people came together and had a constituent assembly that was headed by Soglo, who was a man at that time, I think was the World Bank or the UN. And they drafted a new constitution. The constitution led to Kirikou losing office, which I think is a fear of most of the people that are in government today. But guess what? They wrote a new constitution. Yes, Soglo became head of state, but then there was a new election under the new constitution, and Kirikou came back to power. So what I think the message should be to the people that are clamoring for just an amendment and a panel beating of our current constitution so that they do not lose the advantage they have over the vast majority of us, is that we will draft, if we do get a good constitution, they will come back to office. If they've been good to the people, they've been true representatives, whether as legislators or executive or in the judiciary, they would come back to office. So yes, we do have a big problem. And I guess you asked right. How do we get the right people into government? I must confess, I do not have the answer. Many of us do not believe that INEC has got the control. So we must find a way. I don't know what it is. Maybe we need to get a committee of wise men that believe in the country to come with terms under which we will set up our constitution drafting body.
All right, thank you so much. We'll put you on hold. We're going on a short break. When we return, of course, we'll continue our discussion with Professor Konyinsola Ajayi, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Do stay with us for more.
Welcome back. You're still on Newsnight with Arise News. Well, the issue of changes to the Nigerian Constitution is on our agenda this evening. Still with us is Professor Konyinsola Ajayi, a Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Prof, so let's get back to where we were. You said you didn't have a solution in terms of how we're going to go about it. So who's going to have is there any suggestion or any ideas that we can put on the table in terms of how to get a constitution that we can say, we the people? And for us to be able to do that, are there things you will point to and say that these are the things that we definitely need to look at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the top 5 or top 10?
Okay, right. So I think in terms of how we can go about this, I think we need a body of experts, of committed patriots that seriously believe in the future of the country, to sit down and come up with a formula by which we would determine who sits down to write the Constitution. Obviously, 200 million of us cannot write the Constitution. And I think, so if we have, as I said, highly respected, committed experts and patriots sit down and then say, well, this, having looked around at our circumstance and our situation, the way in which we hold elections, the violence attendant upon our elections, the rigging and corruption attendant upon our elections, the poverty of mind that government has brought upon the people, given that so many of us are uneducated and illiterate and are poor. So they come up with how we get a constitution that will be truly representative of the true wishes and desires of the people. Now, so we need to do that, and we need people that can tease out what we truly need and not what manifests as a result of the oppression of society upon us, because society is oppressing us, and many of us therefore express ourselves in terms of the violence that is brought upon us by society and not by the things that we truly want. So you find a lot of young people that are in crime today and would go with the bandwagon of corruption. And they're doing that not because that's what they desire, but that's the only way they know. So we need something that we need a system that would elicit what we really need as a people. So that's the first thing I do. And I hope our head of state will rise to the occasion and work with the National Assembly, setting up a law by which this can be done. Now, in terms of what are those things that we need to do to move us forward? Well, as far as I'm concerned, government and society exist simply and solely for the welfare and the good of the people of that society, to ensure that there's peace and there is progress. And so this means that we've got to get it right in terms of equity. There's so much iniquity and inequity, in our society, that we need to deal with that in a fundamental fashion. I think that should be the driving philosophy, and then there are many subsets to that.
Okay.
I don't think we can pick 5 things, but we can talk of true federalism in the first place, ensuring that there is very good governance in the second place, and that government really exists for the purpose of advancing the life and the livelihood of the people.
All right, help us break down. I do know that El Rufai's 2018 report, if you added that to the 2014 outcome of the Constitutional Conference, they seem to align somewhat to a very large extent. But let's even talk about some of the recommendations of the El Rufai committee. 12 key recommendations. Merger of states, for example. Would you, support that? And of course, the derivation principle, which talks about periodic review of the derivation, figures and devolution of powers. Help us, break it down. Fiscal federalism, definitely. Which ones would you say are the low-hanging fruits? And how soon do you think this constitution can actually come about? Because some are saying, look, if 2023 is really going to be a reality, we need to have that constitution now.
Yeah. So it can be done, fairly quickly. I mean, that's the honest truth. And it's, going by, previous experiences of what Governor Rufai did, what was done under Jonathan, it's clear that this is something that can be done within 6 months to 1 year. And so can be done in time for us before we hold the next elections. And that's the first thing. But coming back to your first question as to, some recommendations that had come, it is obvious, it is clear to anybody that has sight that the whole of Nigeria is true land of milk and honey and is land of opportunity. Every state has huge natural resources beyond us as a people. We Nigerians are very resourceful, entrepreneurial people that are able to turn, sand to gold. We are a people that are blessed, whose coast, will be expanded like that of the man called Jabez when we put our hands to it. Now, beyond us as a people, as I said, that, every natural every major resource that the world needs today is under our feet or is going from our ground, right? Cocoa, rubber, dongoyaro, which is used in gold mines, and stuff like that. So we've got all these resources. So the first thing is no state should be poor. No part of the country should be poor. But we know that today, most states in Nigeria are more than bankrupt. They are totally failed states, right? Very few states are able to, generate, are independent, right? Nearly all the states are dependent on the federal government. So that has to stop. So we need to look at, and you talked of fiscal federalism, talked of derivation, devolution of powers. This is really a question, in my view, of allowing areas, now whether you're going to call them new regions or new states, to control the natural resources, in that area. And they now will contribute money to the federal government, and not that the federal government will take the resources and give money back to the people. Now, I think this, for instance, is why people talk of 1963 Constitution, because then the states controlled the resources and gave money to the federal government. And then when we had Ironsi's intervention, which was our first move towards unitarism and breakdown of federalism, they started to reduce the amount of money that the states or regions were getting. And then it went on to go on, but the man who ballooned that was Babangida. So that's the first thing I think we need to look at. And if the shackles that are placed on states by the federal government, this unitary system of government that we have that we call federalism, goes away, is that you would find that these new geographical areas that are defined or determined by different services would be independent and would be able to do treat the people well.
Professor.
So I think we can deal with all that with one bullet.
All right. Okay, we want to say thank you very much, Professor Konyinsola Ajayi. Thank you very much. It's such a joy to have you on Newsnight, and we'll continue to speak with you soon again on the program.